So we have the commitment, we have the content. What is the characteristics of a skilled preacher teacher? The trustworthy message is further defined with a prepositional phrase, kata, in terms of content. That is, as has been taught. It doesn't deal with the idea of him teaching. It has to do with the idea of the content of what he teaches. The content of what he teaches is the faithful word of God, the scriptures that will endure time, the scriptures that never change based on climate or culture or context. The scriptures, people need to be submerged, they need to be soaked, they need to be saturated in the scriptures, and only the man of God who has done that for himself first can do that to the audience in which he speaks to. Because he's only teaching what he has been taught. In other words, you need to get up under somebody who is able to teach you what you need to be taught, both in word and by example. Now, I told you last time that we spoke that the example can have two outworkings. Because just like the person in school who used to make the A's and set the curve, we get upset at that person because they live on a level and they study on a level and they accomplish on a level that makes us look like we're inferior. And we don't like them. But there are others in the classroom who say, you seem to appear to have a grasp on this literature. You appear to have a grasp on the mathematics of this class. You seem to understand what the teacher is saying. Can I get some tutoring time with you? There are some who reject that individual, and there are some who say, I need to get alongside that individual and be taught the content of what they know. Because you're wielding a two-edged sword that cuts on both sides, but may produce different results based on the position and attitude and character of the individual. The message determines that in this case, reference to teaching refers to content to be taught. And I've given you scriptures that show you that in Romans 16:17, 1 Corinthians 14:26, 2 John 9 and 10. Instead of the act of teaching, he's not talking about the act of teaching, he's talking about the content of what they teach. And you should have a man that has been taught by somebody else the right content, who has illustrated the right commitment so that they can demonstrate the same characteristics. Are y'all following me? This presents the gospel and word of God as relatively fixed. Did you hear what I said? The gospel and the word of God is fixed. It is not changing. There's one group that says, if it is new, it ain't true. God is not giving any new teaching. There is no new gospel. There's no new thing that God is doing. God doing the same thing he's always done. I got a new word from God. If it's new, it ain't true. So everything you hear from this pulpit is old stuff. It ain't new. If you ever hear me say, I got something new for you, you know it ain't true. You can dismiss me at that time. But you'll never hear that from this pulpit. Everything we got, we find between Genesis 1:1 and the end of Revelation. That's old stuff. That ain't new. It's fixed and it's an authoritative body of doctrine that when preached and obeyed leads to a life of godliness in this present age. And the problem in Crete as well as in our culture is that we got false teachers saying something different than the old stuff. And somebody needs to shut their mouths up. Now, that's not politically correct, but it is biblical. And you need a man of God who is so saturated in the scriptures because he has committed to his life to the study of scriptures that when he hears something that is not right coming out of the mouths of people, he can with skill in an organized manner refute what they're saying. Now that won't make you popular, but that'll make you biblical. When you go home, look at 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6 through 16. I just pulled some characteristics that you see there in that text. Let's turn over there very quickly. Hold your finger here. We're going to come back. It's 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6. These are the qualities of a good, faithful minister of God, a steward, a overseer, pastor, a preacher, teacher. If you instruct your brother in these things, you will be a good minister of Jesus Christ, nourished in the words of faith and of the good doctrine which you have carefully followed. In other words, this man does the proper preparation. He does the proper preparation. He's nourished in the words of faith of the good doctrine. He doesn't allow false junk and false stuff to come into his mind and accept it as truth when it contradicts the word of God.